I never imagined my life would turn into a series of crossroads I wasn't prepared to face. Growing up in a quiet Midwestern town, I was taught to value stability and perseverance, and for the longest time, I thought those principles were enough to build a happy life. After college, when I met Sue, everything seemed to fall into place. We shared dreams of a modest, fulfilling future, a house, children, and the kind of love that could withstand anything. For years, we lived that dream. We raised 3 wonderful kids and built a life of routines that, at the time, felt like comfort. But as our children grew and eventually left home, those routines started to feel like shackles. Conversations turned into arguments, laughter became scarce, and we existed together but felt miles apart. I struggled to understand where things had gone wrong, but every attempt to reconnect seemed futile. Sue walked out, and it didn't take me by surprise. For months, her demeanor had shifted. She was withdrawn, irritable, and uninterested in anything between us. I tried everything I could to bridge the gap, but it felt like pouring water into a cracked vase. The only moments of relief were those spent with friends, a temporary distraction from the weight of our unraveling relationship. I'm Kurt Randolph. Sue was my wife of 26 years. I've already consulted a divorce lawyer. Our marriage ended quietly, without the bang I expected. I'll tell our kids this weekend. I don't know when things went wrong. The last few years were tough, but before that, things were fine, just average. Our kids, Glenn, Julia, and Rachel, are all doing well. I think the trouble began when our first child went to college. Sue struggled with the empty nest, and everything changed. Closeness vanished, we fought more, and I gave up trying. After a while, I stopped caring. A few months ago, Sue's behavior shifted again, and now she's leaving. I'm not sad. I know she's with a younger man. She hasn't made an effort with me, but with him, she's spending hours together in bed. I suspected something was off, and when I asked around, it was confirmed. I work as a manufacturing engineer in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and long hours mean I'm not home much. When I asked my friend Paul, he told me Sue had been seeing a guy, David Perkins, for months. David picks her up, they have lunch, and return an hour later. David's divorced, has 2 kids, and cheated on his ex. I found out when Sue took a spa weekend alone. A coworker tipped Paul off, and I followed Sue to a Holiday Inn where David was waiting. That's when I called the lawyer. I started the divorce right away. I didn't want to confront her. After years of no closeness, I wondered if it was worth it. The love wasn't gone, but maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe we'd both be better off apart. I hope that's true for her too.
I'm nervous but excited for the weekend with David in Sioux Falls. He listens without judging, and for the first time in months, I feel truly heard. As I've gotten older, I don't need Zex like I did in my 20s. What I need is someone who listens and accepts me. David's been that person for the last 3 months. We started having lunch and he made me feel special, not just like a mom or secretary. 2 weeks ago, he suggested we spend an afternoon together. He'd been hinting at something more and I agreed. He booked a room at the Holiday Inn. I was nervous, but David cared about me, and I wanted to show him I cared too. We spent time talking and he made me feel good about myself. It made me wonder when Kurt last kissed me like that. It's been years. Before leaving, David asked if we could get away for the weekend. I agreed, not sure how to tell Kurt. David reassured me it would be fine. I didn't think Kurt would care, given how distant we'd become. When I got home, Kurt wasn't there, like usual. I felt guilty, but reminded myself of how bad things had gotten. I saw our family photo and wedding picture, and it made me question everything. But I couldn't tell Kurt. I changed, started dinner, and tried to act normal.
That day was the breaking point. Sue was gone for over 3 hours. It's been 3 years since we were intimate, and now I knew she was with another man. When she came home, I lied about what I'd been doing, and we started pretending again. I had dinner ready, but she didn't care. "Call when you're going to be this late," she snapped. I said work kept me late, but honestly, I didn't want to be around her anymore. We'd been roommates for weeks, and now she was off on a spa weekend. For the last 2 weeks, I avoided her, coming home late, doing yard work on weekends. I knew once she left, I'd have Tom, the sheriff, serve her the divorce papers. When I told him the situation, he was shocked. "You and Sue were together so long," he said. I just nodded. For years, we hadn't been a couple, and now she was with someone else. "Part of me wants to hurt her," I told Tom. "And part of me knows there's no point in wasting energy on someone who doesn't love you anymore." Tom agreed to help. I set the plan in motion. Sue would be served while she was away. I tracked her with the GPS on her car.
The drive to Sioux Falls took over 3 hours, so I grabbed some fast food on the way. I arrived around 9 o'clock. David was already outside waiting for me. His eagerness made me feel good. "I thought you'd never come," he said. "I was worried Kurt might stop you," I replied. "He doesn't control me," David shot back. "Let's have ice cream before we grab your stuff." That was a clear sign David wanted more than Kurt ever did. After introductions, we shared ice cream, and David couldn't stop touching me. The bed and breakfast was lovely, with a room overlooking the river. The fall colors were stunning.
The GPS failed, but I found the bed and breakfast. I called Tom. "What's up, Kurt?" he asked. "A little numb," I replied. "I won't sleep tonight." "Don't beat yourself up," Tom said. "You're doing something about it." 26 years, Tom, I muttered. "I'm sorry. Are you sure you want the papers served?" "We haven't been a couple in years," I said. "This just makes it real." After giving him the address, Tom promised to serve the papers tomorrow. I didn't want to call the kids yet, not wanting to tip Sue off. It was a restless night, and I only got 2 hours of sleep. All I could think about was Sue and her affair. Tomorrow, she'd be served.
I woke up feeling relaxed, like I'd slept for days. "David, we need to get up," I said. "Let's skip breakfast and continue what we started last night," he suggested. I thought about Kurt. "What happened to us?" I whispered. We'd been so close, but now I felt so distant. I quickly wiped my eyes before David noticed. At breakfast, I realized David and I were the only ones without wedding rings. I'd taken mine off when I drove here. Afterward, we walked by the river and David held my hand. "It's beautiful here," I said. "Not as beautiful as you," David replied. His compliments made me feel young again. After the walk, I told him, "Let's go back to the room. I want to show you how much I appreciate this weekend." When we returned home, David smiled at me. But then there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a sheriff. "Sue Randolph?" he asked. It was Tom, an old friend, now in uniform. "Tom, what's going on?" I asked, anxiety rising. "I'm here on official business," he said. My heart raced and I thought the worst. "Is Kurt okay?" "He's alive," Tom said. "But he's broken. He can't talk to you." Relief and dread hit me at once. Tom handed me a manila envelope. "You've been served," he said, snapping a photo. Confused, I muttered, "What? I don't understand." After Tom left, I collapsed. "Oh my God," I whispered, unable to process it. I called Kurt, but it went to voicemail.
Tom called to confirm my worst fears. Sue was with another man, and I knew it. She was in a robe, and he was in bed with her. "Thanks, Tom," I said numbly. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I don't know," I replied. "I just need to be alone." I turned off my phone and needed space to think about what comes next.
"I need answers," I told David, asking him to find out which hospital Kurt was at. "He's not in a hospital," David said. "Tom said Kurt's heart is broken and he doesn't want to talk to you." I ignored him and started getting dressed. "I have to go talk to him," David protested, but I left anyway. I tried calling Kurt, but it went straight to voicemail. After an hour of trying, I got a call from David. "Really? You left?" he asked. "Yeah, I'm gone," I snapped. "What about our weekend?" he asked. "I guess you'll have to entertain yourself," I replied, hanging up. My phone rang again, and this time it was David. "Can we talk about this witch?" he said. My heart sank, and I hung up. Driving at 97 miles per hour, I saw flashing lights behind me and pulled over. The cop asked why I was in such a rush. "I need to get home," I said. He noticed the envelope on the seat and asked, "What's this?" "Just nonsense," I muttered. He gave me a speeding ticket and I grumbled as he walked away. I drove off, blood boiling, and tried calling Kurt again. "Damn it, Kurt, turn your phone on," I yelled. Still no answer.
An hour and a half had passed since Tom's call. I sat in my lounge chair, trying to figure out how to tell the kids. "How do I do this?" I muttered to myself. I turned on my phone and saw several missed voicemails from Sue, but I wasn't ready to listen to them yet. Instead, I called my oldest son, Glenn. "Hey, Dad," Glenn answered. "How's the new job?" I asked. "Great, I love designing buildings," he said. "I'm glad to hear that." "What's up?" I asked, sensing something was off. "I've got news," he said, his tone shifting. "Are you okay?" Physically, yes. Emotionally, no, I replied, my voice heavy. What's going on? He asked, now clearly concerned. I took a deep breath. Glenn, I'm divorcing your mom. There was a long pause. Glenn's voice broke the silence. What did she do? He asked, already knowing the answer. She decided someone else was more important, I said, the words bitter on my tongue. How long has this been going on? He asked, his voice tight. A few months, I think, I replied. Man, I'm sorry, he said, his hurt palpable. Yeah, me too, I said quietly. So what now? Glenn asked. I filed today, I said, my tone resigned. Don't you think you can work it out? Glenn asked, the hope in his voice unmistakable. If Janie cheated on you, what would you do? I countered. There was a pause before Glenn spoke again. She'd leave. I'd kick her out, he said firmly. I'm proud of you, son, I said, my voice thick with emotion. Please don't tell your sisters. I'll handle it. I won't, Dad. We'll talk more tonight, he promised. Thanks, Glenn, I said, grateful for his support. We'll get through this, Dad, he said softly. Don't hate Mom. That's between me and her, I replied. She's still your mom. She needs you. I don't know how much support I can give her, he admitted. I know, but try, I said gently. I will, Dad. I still love her, Glenn said. I understand. I love her too. I just don't like her anymore, I said, the words carrying a weight I hadn't expected. I'm sorry, Dad. You don't deserve this, Glenn said, his voice full of sympathy. Take care of yourself, son, I said. You too, Dad. Bye. I sat there, staring at the phone, trying to process everything. It rang again. I picked it up without thinking. Hello? I said. Silence. Then Sue's voice. Kurt, we need to talk. I hung up quickly. I didn't want to talk to her right now. Turning off my phone, I stared at it. Eventually, I'd have to, but not today.
I kept driving, lost in thought, when the low fuel light came on. Kurt always filled my tank. I quickly found a gas station, but when I pulled in, I realized the gas cap was on the other side. I cursed under my breath and drove around to try again. The gas door wouldn't open, and I couldn't find the release button. Frustrated, I went inside the station. The clerk barely looked up. Can I help you? I can't open my gas door, I said. He barely glanced at me. Just press the right edge. The crowd on the TV cheered. The clerk muttered, What a witch. Sorry, not you, he added, pointing at the screen. That's the woman from the show. I saw the caption. I cut off my husband, but not my boyfriend. I wanted to defend her, but couldn't. Maybe she needed to feel beautiful again, I said. If her husband isn't giving her that, she should just divorce him. The clerk laughed. If I were him, I'd kick her out. I blushed, realizing that's exactly what Kurt was doing to me. I paid for the gas and drove off, my mind spinning. I tried calling Kurt again, but it went to voicemail.
I saw Sue's name flash on my phone. I didn't want to talk to her. I packed a couple of bags, and as I passed the family photo on the mantel, memories of happier times flooded back. I picked up a picture from when the kids were young, then slammed my fist into it in a burst of anger. The glass shattered and blood appeared on my knuckles. I placed my wedding ring on the mantel, face down, and set the photo on top. I drove to a hotel for the night and called my second child, Julia. Hi, Jules, I said. Hi, Daddy, she replied. Got time to talk? I asked. Sure, she answered. Listen, sweetie, this is serious, I said, my voice heavy. I'm listening, she said, her tone attentive. Your mom and I have a problem, I began. Dad, you two had problems before I left for college, she said, sounding unsurprised. Yeah, but this is different. We're getting a divorce, I told her, bracing for her reaction. I'm not shocked, she said quietly. Before I left, you two fought all the time. It didn't seem like you were really happy together. That's true. You were right, I admitted. I knew something was wrong, but it wasn't about us, she said. It was between you two. Have you tried counseling? She asked. I don't think it matters now, I replied, my voice heavy with finality. Please try, Dad. Don't do this alone, she urged. I'll think about it, I said, my voice breaking. I love you, Dad, she said, her voice trembling. I'll let you go. I love you too, I said, then turned off my phone, overwhelmed. Sitting on the bed, I gasped for breath as tears began to fall. Why is she doing this to us? I whispered. I pulled into the driveway and saw Kurt's car wasn't there. I expected that. I unlocked the door, but something felt off.
The house was too quiet. The family photo was still on the mantel, but our wedding picture was face down with the glass shattered, Kurt's wedding ring lying in the broken pieces. "What have I done?" I whispered to myself.
I turned my phone back on and called Rachel, my youngest. "Hey, Dad," she answered. "I tried to call, but your voicemail's full." "Hi, Rachel," I said, relieved to hear her voice. "What's going on?" she asked, sensing something was off. "Julia called me," I replied. "I should have asked her not to," she said regretfully. "I wanted you to hear it from me first." "She said you're getting a divorce," Rachel continued, already knowing. "Yeah, I filed," I said, the words still feeling heavy. "I'm not surprised," she said matter-of-factly. "You two stopped talking a long time ago. It didn't even seem like you were married anymore." "I didn't realize it was that obvious," I replied, a touch of guilt creeping in. "Dad, we know you love us, but it's clear you don't love each other. You didn't show it," Rachel said, her voice gentle but honest. "I wouldn't want to live like that either, Rachel," I said, the truth of it settling in. "You have to do what makes you happy," she said. "I don't want you to stay in a marriage that's not working." "Thanks for understanding," I said, my voice cracking with emotion. "I love you, Dad. I'm always here for you," she said softly. "I love you too," I replied, then hung up, needing space.
I saw Julia's name on my phone and hesitated before answering. "Hi, Julia," I said, my voice cautious. "How are you?" she asked, concern evident in her tone. "How are you?" I countered. "I'm fine," she replied. "But my dad called me." "What did he say?" I asked, bracing myself. "He said you're getting a divorce," Julia said, her voice quiet. I sighed, trying to stay calm. "It's not true. It's a misunderstanding." "It didn't sound that way when I talked to him," she said, doubt in her voice. "We'll get through this," I said, trying to convince myself more than her. Rachel said, Julia started, hesitant. "Yes, I was served this morning," I admitted softly. "I know you and Dad fought a lot before I left for college," Julia said, acknowledging the past. "Yeah, but then we just stopped fighting and started coexisting," I replied, the weight of it hitting me. "I think you two should go to counseling," she suggested gently. "It might help," I said. "I'll talk to him if I ever get the chance." "What do you mean?" she asked, confused. "I've tried calling him, but he won't answer. I don't know where he is," I explained, frustration creeping in. "I'll call if I find him," Julia said. "If you hear from him, tell him to call me." "Thanks, Julia. I love you," I said, my voice breaking slightly. "I love you too, Mom," she said, her voice full of emotion.
I wasn't hungry, but hadn't eaten all day, so I ordered pizza. As I ate, Rachel's words kept playing in my head. Sue and I hadn't truly connected in years. Menopause wasn't the only issue. Sue had refused treatment for symptoms, and after Rachel was born, she didn't want birth control, so I had a vasectomy. I ate the pizza while watching TV, but it was just background noise.
I turned on the TV but couldn't focus. My mind raced as I looked at the empty closet and drawers. Divorce papers were a hard reality, and the empty space made it feel final. Kurt leaving meant this was really happening. Tonight I wouldn't sleep in our bed but in one of the kids' rooms. I needed to reach Glenn and Rachel to try to get them to talk to Kurt. Maybe if they convinced him, he'd agree to counseling. I called Glenn, but Janie answered. She said he didn't want to talk to me. Kurt had probably already told him about the divorce. "Glenn, please help me talk to your dad," I begged. "I don't even want to talk to you," he snapped. "Why would he want to talk to me?" Glenn asked. "This could ruin my relationships with both Kurt and Glenn." I tried to explain that if Kurt would just talk to me, we could work things out, but Glenn didn't seem to care. "Please ask him to call me if you hear from him," I pleaded. "Okay, but I'm not asking him," he said before hanging up. I called Rachel next. "How are you, honey?" I asked, hoping for some reassurance. "I'm fine, Mom. How are you?" she replied, her voice steady. "Have you heard from your dad?" I asked, feeling a knot in my stomach. "Yes, he called me today," Rachel said. "Honestly, I expected him to call me a year ago after I left for college," I said, the words slipping out. "You two didn't even talk." "I think you both need to find happiness, Mom," Rachel said, her tone matter-of-fact. I paused, taking in her words. Rachel was always direct, and I admired her for that. Can you ask him to talk to me? I asked, my voice softer now. I'll try, Rachel said, but there was uncertainty in her voice. I'm not sure he'll listen. Please, Rachel, I said, and we ended the call. I felt like I'd lost my son and that my daughter didn't care if we divorced. I stayed up until midnight, but neither of my kids nor Kurt called. I finally went to bed in Julia's room. At least she'd suggested counseling.
I was exhausted. I hadn't slept much in the last 2 weeks. After a long sleep, I woke up late, showered, and decided to call the kids. They were relieved to hear from me and mentioned that Sue had called, asking me to talk to her. Today, I decided I'd finally have the conversation with her. I dialed her number. "Oh, Kurt, thanks for calling," Sue answered. The kids asked me to reach out. "What do you need?" I replied coldly. "I want to talk. Can we meet?" she asked, her voice tentative. "Why don't you come home? We can talk there," I suggested, trying to keep my tone neutral. I thought for a moment. "Sure, I need to grab a few things," I added, hoping she'd catch the underlying meaning. "Can you come at 2?" she asked. "Sure, and your lover will be gone by then," I said, the words slipping out more harshly than I intended. I said it to hurt her, and it worked. She apologized, but I wasn't buying it. After the call, I drove past the house, parked down the street, and waited. No one came or went, confirming my suspicions. Before heading back, I shaved, dressed sharply, and put on aftershave. I wanted her to see what she was losing.
Finally, Kurt called. He was brief, cold, and made a spiteful comment. He'd come at 2, so I had to prepare. I made a nice dinner, hoping it would set the right tone for our conversation. I dressed nicely too, wanting him to see what he was throwing away.
I parked on the street instead of my driveway. It felt strange, but I wasn't ready to park in a place that no longer felt like home.
As Kurt walked down the driveway, I noticed he looked more dressed up than usual for a weekend. He normally wore a t-shirt and jeans. I had to greet him at the door and thank him for coming.
The door opened, and Sue greeted me with a concerned smile. She was dressed decently, but I wondered if she had a date tonight.
I smiled at Kurt, but it probably looked strained. I was happy to see him, but anxious about what would happen. "Why'd you park on the street?" I asked, trying to keep things light. "Thanks for coming over." "I wasn't sure if someone needed the garage space," he replied coldly.
Sue's face turned angry. That comment hit its mark, but this wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation.
His comment pissed me off, but I bit my tongue. I wanted this meeting to be calm, so I'd deal with his childish behavior if I had to. I had dinner ready. "Sit at the table," I said. "I'm here to talk, not eat," he replied. "Can't we do both? We can have a meal and talk things over," I suggested. "No, I'm not hungry. I have somewhere to be after this," he said. I lied. I didn't have plans, but he didn't need to know that. So, he's already seeing someone, I thought, dressed up for a date after leaving me. "Oh, so you can't cancel a date?" I asked, regretting it immediately. "Who is he?" I pressed. "I don't have a date. I don't go on dates when I'm married," Kurt shot back. That stung. I just blew it. "Sorry, Kurt. My emotions got the best of me," I said.
"Did your emotions take over on Friday and Saturday too?" I asked, my voice hard. "Oh God, I'm so sorry, Kurt. Please forgive me," she begged. "I don't think that will ever happen," I said flatly. I could see her shoulders slump. She thought I was done, but I was just warming up. "Well, you wanted to talk. Let's talk," I said, walking into the living room and sitting down. Sue sat across from me on the couch. "I'm really sorry," she said. "Are you sorry for what you did or just for getting caught?" I asked, pausing. "Which is it?"
I hated admitting it, but if I'm being honest, I was sorry I got caught. I wouldn't have confessed if he hadn't known. "I'm sorry I hurt you," I said, deciding that was the best answer.
"That doesn't answer my question, Sue," I said, watching her wrestle with the truth. "You have to be honest with me or we're done," I warned, my tone sharp. "I will, Kurt. Ask me anything," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Did you feel guilty on Friday night driving to Sioux Falls?" I pressed, refusing to let it go. "Yes," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "How did this start? Where did you meet him?" I asked, trying to piece it together. "He's a salesman I see once a week. He's always been nice to me," she explained, as if it were something innocent. "So how did it go from quick meetings to a weekend away?" I asked, the disbelief in my voice growing. "It was just fun. I like David, but it wouldn't lead to anything serious. I'm married," she replied, almost defensively. At least for now, I thought, biting my tongue. He asked me to lunch, and I agreed, she continued, her eyes avoiding mine. And that's how it started? I asked, needing confirmation. Yeah, it seemed harmless at first. But then we started meeting every week, she said, her voice faltering. How long did that last? I asked, my anger simmering. For several months, she confessed, her gaze dropping to the floor. You didn't think that was a problem? I asked, unable to hide my disappointment. He made me feel good, like I was young again, she said. So that's all it took? Compliments and attention? I snapped, bitterness rising. I haven't felt like that in years. No, Kurt, we were just comfortable with each other, she said. And then you went to a bed and breakfast for the weekend? I pressed. He was the first, she said quickly. So when was the first time? Was it with him? I demanded. Yes, she admitted. Friday night, with David. She lied. You don't spend hours in a hotel room just talking.
Kurt got up without a word, heading for the door. Kurt, don't leave. We're not done talking yet, I called, rushing after him. He turned and looked at me with a mix of sadness and anger. You lied to me, Sue. I told you, if we're going to have a future, you have to be honest, he said, voice breaking. I realized how stupid I was. He knew everything. I'm sorry, Kurt, I lied, I whispered. We were already together about 2 weeks ago. I took a day off and we went to a hotel. How did he know? He must have figured it out.
Then what? I asked. What are we doing now? You're getting a lawyer. We're getting a divorce, I said firmly. You're throwing away a good marriage over this? She asked in disbelief. 23 years of a good marriage gone, I replied. It's been 26 years, Kurt, she corrected me. Yeah, but the last 3 have been a waste, I shot back. Her face crumpled. She couldn't understand why I felt that way. Screw you, Kurt, she thought. Not the last 3 years. What do you mean by that? She asked. I mean, we haven't had fun in over 3 years, I said. Is this all about Zex? She asked, incredulous. Yes, it is. You can give it to anyone else, but not your husband. I've been shut out for 3 years, I replied, feeling the years of frustration building. We had nothing for years. I begged you. I tried, but you didn't care. Well, I guess I'll get over it. I'm just sorry I waited so long, I said, walking toward the door. You're giving up on us? She asked. I'm done, I said.
Goodbye, Sue. Get a lawyer. And with that, he walked out. He left, ruining my hopes for a peaceful evening and a conversation. I wanted him to understand why I cheated, to explain that I needed to feel desired by someone younger. But now, I was alone crying. When the phone rang, I snapped out of my daze. It was Julia. Mom, are you okay? Did Dad call? She asked, her voice filled with concern. Yes, Julia, he came over. We had a fight, then he left, I replied, my voice shaky. Oh, Mom, I'm sorry. Did he say why he's filing for divorce? She asked, sounding worried. I already knew, I said quietly. He just said it plainly. I cheated on him. What? Julia gasped, the shock clear in her voice. I was stupid. He found out. He even made me serve when I was with another guy. I'm ashamed. I'll be an almost 50-year-old divorced idiot, I cried, my words tumbling out in a rush. Oh, Mom, how could you? Julia asked, clearly upset. I knew you and Dad weren't getting along, but how could you do this? I'm sorry. I love him, but he's gone, I sobbed, my chest tightening. Maybe he just needs time. Maybe you can work things out with a counselor, Julia suggested, her voice hopeful but uncertain. I'd like to think so, but I don't have much hope. Your dad is too proud. He'll never forgive me, I said, my voice barely a whisper. So he's willing to throw away your marriage over his ego? Julia asked, her tone sharp with frustration. I've asked him that too, but honestly, our marriage hasn't been the same for years, and I'm to blame, I admitted, the weight of my words sinking in. I cried harder and dropped the phone. Mom? Mom? Julia cried, panic rising in her voice. I fumbled to pick it up. I'm sorry, honey, I dropped the phone, I said, my voice strained. I'm coming home to try to talk to Dad, Julia said firmly, determination in her voice. Honey, I think it's a waste of time, I protested, my exhaustion making me doubt everything. I don't care, I'm coming. I'll see you in a few hours, Julia said, resolute. My daughter was coming home to try to fix the mess I'd made. My selfish actions had torn our family apart.
I spoke to Julia. She's coming home to fix things between Sue and me. It's too late, I thought. 3 years of Sue's behavior pushed me away. What broke the camel's back was her giving the other guy what she denied me for so long. I don't usually drink, but tonight I needed to get away. I turned off my phone and left my hotel room. Let them find me if they could.
Julia arrived and tried to reach Kurt, but his phone was off. It was getting late, and I decided to go to bed. Tomorrow, I'd go to work sick and try to meet up with Kurt.
I spent the evening drinking beer, not drunk, but numb. I set an alarm for 6 a.m. and checked my messages. A couple from Sue with more apologies and 2 from Julia, wanting to meet tomorrow after work. I wasn't working tomorrow. I had lawyer meetings and errands to run. For now, I needed sleep.
I barely slept. Waking to the smell of bacon brought back memories of weekends with Kurt. Was this a nightmare? I realized it was real when Julia called from downstairs. I called work and took a sick day. There were things I needed to do. Talk to Julia about how to win Kurt back, get the other kids on my side, and even talk to Janie about helping with Glenn. Kurt liked her and thought she'd be a good match for him. I barely ate breakfast. The food I made for Kurt the day before was now leftovers. I called Rachel and Glenn but left messages. Then I called Janie, who had Mondays off. "Hi, Janie, it's Glenn's mom. Can we talk?" I asked, hoping for a moment of connection. "Sure, Mom," she answered. She'd been calling me that for a year, and it felt good to hear. "How's Glenn?" I asked, trying to gauge how he was holding up. "He's mad. Doesn't want to talk about it," Janie replied, her voice laced with frustration. "Can you ask him to call me? I need to talk about his dad," I said, urgency in my voice. "What happened, Mom?" Janie asked, her tone softening. "I did something that upset Kurt and now he wants a divorce," I admitted, feeling the weight of it all. "Oh no, I can't believe this. You've been married over 25 years. You have to work it out," Janie said, her disbelief clear. "I hope so, but if Kurt will give us a chance, I think we can," I replied. "Can you call him? Tell him how much it would hurt if we got divorced?" "Sure, Mom. I'll talk to him," Janie said, a sense of determination creeping into her voice. "I want you to stay together. I want you to be together when I have kids one day." "Thanks, Janie. I hope so too," I said, trying to hold on to that sliver of hope.
I woke up, called in sick to work, showered, and got dressed. A slight headache lingered, but I felt okay. First, I ate breakfast, then called my lawyer to set up an appointment. He had time later that morning, so I ran to the bank, opened a separate account, paid off my credit card, and transferred half of our funds. After that, I turned on my phone and messages from Julia popped up. She wanted to meet. It pissed me off that Sue had pulled Julia out of college to deal with this. I called her back. "Hey, Jules," I said, trying to stay calm. "You shouldn't have slacked off on your studies," she replied, her voice tinged with frustration. "I came home to see if I could save your marriage," I said, feeling defensive. "This is between Mom and me. You don't need to get involved," she said, trying to distance herself from the situation. "This is our family, and I'm trying to save it," I replied, my frustration rising. "We'll still be a family, even if your mom and I aren't together anymore. That won't change," I added, trying to soften the blow. "Can we meet and talk?" Julia asked, sounding more open. "I've already heard Mom's side. Let's have lunch at 12:30 at Applebee's. I'll be done with the lawyer by then," I suggested, needing to take control of the situation. "Okay, just you, Dad, not Mom," she said firmly. "I figured she'd come if I didn't say anything," I replied. After meeting with the lawyer, I felt better. He said that with the evidence from Tom, the affair divorce would be straightforward. I didn't care about the details. I just wanted a 70-30 split. The judge would decide based on how much Sue fought back. At lunch, Julia asked, "Dad, do you still love Mom?" I hesitated. "I don't think I do anymore. I've been thinking about it, and I just don't feel the same. I still care about her, but the love isn't there anymore." Julia's face shifted from hope to despair. "But I love you both. I love you and your siblings. That will never change. But we can't go back after this," I said, trying to soften the blow. She sat quietly, processing my words. "You're growing up, Jules. You'll be married someday, and we'll still be your parents. We'll just be living in separate houses," I added, my voice steady but tinged with sadness. "I thought you two were going to be together forever," she said, her voice full of disappointment. "You've been in relationships. What makes a good marriage?" I asked, hoping to open a more rational discussion. She thought for a moment, then said, "Love." I don't think I love her anymore, I replied. What else? She asked, looking up at me. Respect, I said, pausing. Do you think I respect Mom now? And does she respect me after what she did? I don't know. What else? She asked, still trying to make sense of it. Commitment, I replied. Do you think I should just stick with her when times have been tough for years? I asked, the weight of it all sinking in. I don't know, she said quietly, looking down. Anything else? I pressed. Patience and forgiveness, she offered. I've been patient, but I don't know if I can forgive her, I said, my voice breaking slightly. It was just one time, she said, trying to make sense of it. It wasn't just one time, maybe just one guy. But it happened more than once, I replied, the truth of it hitting hard. Julia looked down, clearly struggling with the realization. I'll talk to Mom about it, she said softly. I nodded. Honesty is another big one. Do you think she's been honest with you? Julia asked, her voice quieter now. No, I said, the finality of it stinging. So trust is gone? She asked, almost as a confirmation. Yeah, I don't think I can trust her anymore, I said, the hurt in my voice undeniable. Communication? She added, almost like a question. Before you left, we barely talked. It was mostly fighting, I replied, my eyes meeting hers. And selflessness? Julia added thoughtfully. A willingness to do anything for your partner. Yeah, I agree. And you forgot one thing, physical closeness, I added, a little more bluntly. That goes without saying, I said. Ask your mom about that. We switched topics, and by the end of lunch, we were talking about school, boys, and everything else. But the elephant was still in the room. Tell Mom to get a lawyer, I said. I will, Dad, she said quietly. Afterward, I walked through Central Park, trying to clear my head. I thought about Julia's words. She had nailed the reasons for our divorce. I hoped the process would be quick, but I doubted it.
I went back to work, though my mind was elsewhere. At home, it felt empty. Julia had left early, and I tried to distract myself with laundry. As I was putting the laundry away, the phone rang. It was Janie. Mom, I think Kurt's mad at me. I told him he should forgive you, and he shut me down fast. He's so stubborn. Most men are like that, I said. He's being dumb. You two can get over this. I hope so, I replied. Sorry, Mom. Glenn just walked in. I'll talk to you later. I felt bad for dragging Janie into this. I didn't expect Kurt to be rude to her. I guess I didn't know him as well as I thought.
At lunch with Eric, he immediately asked, What's going on with you, Kurt? You haven't been yourself lately. I admitted, I'm getting a divorce. Eric was shocked. But you've been married forever. Only 26 years. We won't make it to 27, I replied. When he asked what happened, I told him, She's having an affair. Eric was quiet for a moment, then said, I'm really sorry, man. I explained, It started a long time ago, but she's been seeing a guy named David Perkins. He works for Heartland Paper, and they've been having lunch for months. Eric frowned. What an A. Yeah, I said. But I can't get over what she did to me these last 3 years. I'm done. We changed the subject and finished lunch without discussing my issues further.
At work, my boss noticed something was off. Sue, are you okay? Problems at home? I'd rather not talk about it, I replied, brushing it off. Later, David walked in for his usual meeting with my boss. When he left, he looked at me coldly and said, I can't believe you just left like that. I whispered, Let's talk at lunch. We met at Minerva's, where I apologized. I shouldn't have agreed to that weekend. It was a mistake. David wasn't happy. So you didn't enjoy it? I hesitated, but said, It was enjoyable, but it was still a mistake. I'm married and I have to make things right. David snapped. I paid over $400 for that weekend, and you dumped me halfway through, stupid witch. I stood up to leave. I have to fix things with my husband, I said, heading for the door. He shouted after me, I hope he divorces you.
Later, I got a call from a private investigator. I saw your wife meet with the guy for lunch, but they had an argument and she left. It didn't change much, but it gave me some satisfaction. Maybe she regretted it.
That evening, I got a call from Rachel who asked, Why didn't you just ask for a divorce instead of doing what you did? I told her, I wasn't unhappy, I don't want a divorce. But Rachel was firm. You're on your own with this, Mom. I felt more alone than ever, sitting in an empty house, realizing how badly I'd messed up.
I spent the weekend apartment hunting. By Sunday, I'd found a place, a 2-bedroom that could fit the kids if they wanted to visit.
The weekend was tough for me. I kept thinking about all the good times we'd had. holidays, birthdays, and wondered if there was any chance of us reconciling. I called all the kids, and after some convincing, they agreed to come for Thanksgiving. Glenn was reluctant, but I managed to get him to agree.
I got an invitation for Thanksgiving from Sue. I threw it away immediately. The only thing I was thankful for was making the decision to end my marriage. Over the next couple of weeks, I moved into my apartment, furnished it with Craigslist finds, and settled into my new life. Rachel called to invite me to Thanksgiving. I turned her down. Julia begged me to reconsider, and although it was hard, I said no. Janie didn't call, and I was relieved.
On Monday before Thanksgiving, I saw Kurt walking to his car. My heart sank when I saw him. "Kurt," I called out, smiling, trying to stay calm. "What about Thanksgiving? The kids would really like you there." He coldly replied, "I threw it away the same day I got it." I tried to convince him. "Please, for the kids' sake, you need to think about family." He shot back, "Invite your lover instead. I'm sure he'll come. You know, David Perkins. He has 3 other women, 2 of them married." I was stunned. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to defend myself. Kurt smirked. "You don't even know about his other women, do you?" The look on my face said it all. "You had a fight with him after that weekend, didn't you?" Kurt pressed. "I know you don't know the whole story." I was speechless, trying to justify my actions. "Kurt, please, let's just forget it. I won't make that mistake again." He was firm. "No, it's over, Sue. Get a lawyer and sign the papers. I'm done." I shook my head, my voice trembling. "I'll fight it, Kurt." He turned to leave, adding, "I'm sure you'll find a way to drag this out, but it's over. Get a lawyer." I stood there watching him drive away. My heart sank. I didn't know where to go from here. As Kurt drove off, I whispered, "We never resolved anything." I wished we had talked things through. I got into the Yukon and drove home, crying the whole way. The next day at work, my boss seemed stressed. He told me there was a meeting with the president and vice president. Afterward, he informed us that the plant would have every Friday off due to the loss of a major client. The news quickly turned somber when the president announced we'd be limited to 32 hours a week, with only Monday through Thursday hours and benefits intact. I returned to my desk, where my boss asked if I knew what was going on with 3M. I was confused. "It's the account we lost," he said, "and it accounts for most of our sales. We're down to 32 hours a week." I couldn't believe it. "Kurt did this out of spite," I muttered, realizing the consequences of my actions. I overheard some coworkers gossiping about me, calling me names. It hit me hard, and I needed to talk to Kurt. I drove to his office, hoping we could sort things out.
As I left work, I saw Sue's Yukon parked in front of my car. I braced for another Thanksgiving invitation, but she was angry. "You're ruining Christmas for people," she shouted. "What are you talking about?" I asked. She blamed me for the 3M account loss, but I had no control over it. "Maybe your actions have consequences," I said. "You should have thought about that." She yelled, "Screw you!" And I drove off, feeling a little guilty, but knowing it was a wake-up call she needed.
Back home, I was furious with Kurt, but maybe it was for the best that we were divorcing. I had to focus on making Thanksgiving special for the kids, despite his absence. I baked pies, hoping it would help me forget my troubles.
At my apartment, I thought about what Sue had said. Eric must have moved our business from 3M out of revenge. I'd ask him tomorrow, but I was certain. I ate a microwave dinner thinking about Thanksgiving. I might spend it with other single people at Pizza Ranch. The next day, I confronted Eric. "Did you move our business from 3M?" I asked. Eric confirmed it, explaining that the switch saved money for the company. He didn't care about the consequences for the employees at Mid-States. "When someone hurts my friend, I hurt them back," he said without remorse.
At work, my boss called me into his office. "We lost the 3M account because of you, didn't we?" he asked. I admitted it. "I messed up," I said, apologizing for my mistake. He wasn't happy, but he promised not to punish me further. Later, I received a call from David. He was furious. "Your husband got back at me," he said. I defended myself, but he accused me of causing his troubles. "All you women are witches," he spat. I called the kids and invited them over for Thanksgiving, but I asked them not to tell Kurt my new address. I woke up early to prepare dinner, holding on to a glimmer of hope that Kurt might show up. By noon, the kids started arriving. When Julia asked if Kurt would cook, I replied, "We can hope." Julia called Kurt again, but I knew it was probably pointless. After 26 years, I knew how stubborn he was. He wouldn't come. Well, I said, let's sit down and have a nice dinner without him. We were halfway through dinner when Julia said, I can't believe he's so stubborn. He should at least come to Thanksgiving. Maybe we could talk and find forgiveness. Dad's hurting, Glenn said, glancing at me. That's when I realized he was angry at me. Their marriage has been bad for years, Rachel added. They fought all the time and stopped talking. She looked at me. Sorry, Mom, but it's true. Why did you two start fighting? Glenn asked. Were you seeing someone back then? That hurt. My kids thought I'd been unfaithful years ago. No, we were fighting about other things, I said. I was faithful until about a month ago. Why? Julia asked. Well, your dad and I had been more like roommates. One day a guy started flirting with me and asked me to lunch. I didn't see the damage, so I went. It turned into a weekly thing and eventually we slept together, I said, avoiding their gaze. So now you want him back? Glenn asked. Just forget about it? I know it's not that simple, I replied, but I've apologized over and over. I just want him to forgive me. He should forgive you, Janie chimed in. What? Glenn said, shocked. If he loves her, he should forgive her, Janie insisted. How can you say that? Glenn replied. Loyalty is key in a marriage. Love is, Janie shot back. You can't build on fidelity alone. Exactly, Glenn said. If you love someone, you won't cheat. But love conquers all, Janie repeated. If he loved her, he'd forgive her. So if you cheated on me, I'd just forgive you? Glenn asked, raising his voice. If you loved me, you would, Janie said calmly. Are you planning to cheat on me? Glenn asked, eyes wide. I don't think so, Janie said, but you can't predict the future. So you can't commit to never cheating? He asked. I can say I won't, she replied. But if we stuck to vows, we wouldn't be getting divorced. What about leaving everyone behind? Glenn shot back. That too, Janie said. You have to love and forgive. I could see things were getting tense, so I said, let's not talk about this now. Let's just be thankful we're healthy and together. Glenn's face softened as he looked at Janie. I thought, maybe they'll work this out.
The kids stopped by after spending time with Sue. There was tension in the air, but I didn't bring up their mom. We talked about school and Glenn's new job. They were adults now, with their own lives. As they were leaving, Glenn put his arm around me and said quietly, Dad, I need to talk to you. I'll call you tomorrow, I said, pretending I hadn't heard. I spent the rest of the day watching soccer, thinking about past Thanksgivings. Dad? Glenn's voice came through the phone. Hey, son. How's it going? I think I need to break up with Janie, Glenn said, his voice heavy. Why? I asked. I've always liked her, but after the conversation at Mom's yesterday, I'm not sure anymore. Janie kept saying I should forgive you, like there was nothing wrong with what Mom did. When I asked if she'd cheat on me, she said, I don't think so, but you can't predict the future. That shocked me, he said. I paused for a moment. I know you love Janie, but was she being realistic? I said. Love doesn't give a free pass for anything. I can't talk about marriage with her until I'm sure, Glenn replied. I get it, I said. You two need to be on the same page. Consider premarital counseling. Thanks, Dad, Glenn said, sounding relieved. I hung up, concerned about Janie's attitude. Would she expect Glenn to forgive her no matter what? What if it was the other way around? Relationships need clear boundaries and mutual understanding.
The next week, I decided to consult a lawyer. I wanted to fight for a divorce, but he suggested we try court-ordered counseling first. It gave me some relief, knowing I had options, even if the marriage ends.
My lawyer called. Sue had hired one too and wanted counseling. It seemed the judge would likely order it, so it's better to do it now to speed up the divorce process.
I got Kurt to agree to counseling. It might take more than one session, but maybe we could work through our issues.
I walked into the counselor's office. I was sure the marriage was over, but I'd humor the process. The counselor asked why I wanted a divorce, and I told her, we're estranged. The damage can't be repaired. She asked about the root cause. It started with her rejecting closeness, I said. She cut me off emotionally and physically.
The counselor turned to me. Sue, would you like to respond? I still love Kurt, I said, but it didn't feel like enough. The last few years haven't been great. Why? The counselor asked. I lost interest in Zex. I didn't need or want it, I replied. Did you see a doctor? She asked. I didn't want medication, I admitted. Did you talk to Kurt about it? She asked. Yes, but he didn't understand. He just wanted one thing.
The counselor asked, Did Sue express her concerns? Yes, I said, but there were other ways to deal with it. I tried, but she wouldn't. And how did that make you feel? She asked. Like she didn't love me, I said. She didn't care how I felt.
The counselor turned to me. Why were you unwilling to meet Kurt's needs? I wasn't interested, I said. His efforts made me resent him. You think he didn't care? Kurt said. You gave another man what you wouldn't give me. How is that love? I don't think you hated me, I said, but you didn't care enough to try.
The counselor asked me, So you're done? Yes, I said. I'll find someone who wants to make me happy, even if it means doing things we don't want to do. That's what a real relationship is. I stood up. I'm done. I'll move on once the divorce is final. Then I walked out of the office.
After the counseling session, I felt Kurt was done with me. He wanted someone else, someone who could make him happy. I had hurt him deeply, emotionally, and physically by seeking affection from a younger man. I had replaced Kurt like an older male being displaced in the animal world, and it had happened without a fight. Back home in the quiet house, I ordered pizza from Domino's. As I waited, I replayed the last few years in my mind. Kurt had tried, but I had shut him out. It wasn't just the lack of closeness. It was everything. When the doorbell rang, I opened it to find the delivery guy looking at me with a strange expression. Sue Randolph? He asked. After a brief exchange, he muttered something about screwing up and walked off. I stared at the pizza, suspicious but too numb to care. I tossed it in the trash. At work, things had only gotten worse. My hours were cut, and my coworkers barely hid their resentment. I deserved it.
The counseling session hadn't gone as planned, but at least I'd said what I needed to say. I was determined to move on after the divorce, to find someone who would make me happy. Alone in the apartment, I heard from Glenn. He and Janie had broken up. He sounded defeated, just like I had felt before. He'd wanted Janie to promise she wouldn't cheat, but she wouldn't give him that assurance. I understood his pain, but I couldn't offer much advice. He'd have to figure it out himself.
Julia called to tell me Glenn had broken up with Janie. It hit me hard. What happened? I asked. Julia explained that Glenn couldn't get past his doubts about Janie cheating. The situation was a mess, and I felt responsible for it. I hoped Glenn would calm down, but deep down I knew him well. Once he made up his mind, there was no changing it. Later, I called my lawyer to propose a 50-50th split for the divorce and a change to irreconcilable differences. I knew fighting would only delay the inevitable.
Sue's offer came through. She was willing to settle for a 50-50th split, but she wanted the cause to be irreconcilable differences. I rejected the offer. She couldn't cover up her cheating by changing the reason. I reminded my lawyer about the proof of her infidelity. I would accept the split if she agreed to another condition.
Kurt rejected my offer, but he agreed to the 50-50th split. I decided to take it. Once the divorce was final, I planned to leave this town. I'd been shunned, and I was ready to move on. Maybe St. Paul or someplace warmer. At work, I heard from a salesman about David. He'd been badly knockin' and was in the hospital. I wondered if Kurt was involved, but I couldn't be sure.
Sue accepted the offer. Now we just had to wait for the judge. I thought about everything we'd been through, still angry over what had happened. Would I ever be able to talk to her without resentment?
The house was so empty. I was looking forward to selling it. I couldn't stop thinking about everything, even though I tried to distract myself with TV. When David invited me to dinner, I told myself it was harmless. But I knew better now. Accepting that invitation wasn't as innocent as it seemed. Somewhere, a woman like me was making the same mistake, and she didn't even realize it.